In 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm blaming Derek for that one.
I went on go! I was on go!
Hi, I'm PocketTrain. I'm the 2023 Hearthstone World Champion, and this is how you play Starship Warlock. Starship Warlock, at its core, is a control deck. It can also play quite an aggressive game plan. It's good at tempo swings with Starship launches and with Summon a Dark Marrow with the Ultralisk Cavern location. That's my favorite part of the deck, really, not just sitting back and controlling. I like the big swing turn aspect. And what the deck does best is farming other control decks that don't have a guaranteed win condition in their deck, like Wheel of Death. So if they're just sitting there with nothing but removal, then you've got a pretty surefire win against them. The early game turns are just about surviving to getting Ancient of Yore down on turn 5. That's the key part of the deck. Ideally, you want to stall a couple of turns and then Eternal Layover plus AoE to clear the board on turn 7 or turn 6 if you've coined out Yore on 4. Using that, you should be able to bridge towards a late game scenario just naturally drawing your deck. You don't have to life tap much, your Yours will do that for you, and they'll keep you alive with the armor. And then in the late game, your two main win conditions are Wheel of Death and Exodar. Like, Exodar for armor complements the Wheel of Death quite well, because it's quite hard for your opponent to kill you. But my main way of ending the games, my favorite way, is to get stuff like Curse Campaign down on Arcanite Defense Crystal, and then lay over them when the Dormants wake up, and then you've suddenly got a massive Starship, Ceaseless Expanse, plus Exodar for damage, and just OTK your opponent so they don't get to scam you after you play Wheel. So for the Mulligan, is very, very simple, really. You're always keeping Ultralisk Cavern, you're always keeping Nidus Worm in order to draw your Ultralisk Cavern, and you're always keeping Ancient of Yore. There are very few deviations from this. Like, there are a couple of matchups, like an aggressive deck that will have a bunch of small minions on board. You want a table flip for that. And then there are some decks that build big boards, but like in the mid game, that you won't want to hold Eternal Layover for. But only keep Layover if you've already got the other key cards, like Ancient of Yore and Ultralisk Cavern. Because if you just play that on its own, then you will probably run out of gas, and then the opponent's second or third board will just kill you. The key combos in the deck you're looking out for are mostly revolving around the card Eternal Layover. So it interacts really well with Ancient of Yore once it wakes up from its dormant. It resets the dormant, and then you can gain 10 and draw 2 cards over 2 turns again. It also is really good with Ultralisk Cavern. It sets the opponent's board 1 health, and then you can clear cleanly. And it's also really strong with Starship pieces, because it ends up just effectively putting them in the Starship twice. Layover is also a really, really premium removal piece, so you don't want to waste it usually when your opponent doesn't have a huge board, and in which case, your best friend is Curse Campaign. That's the best way to make use of duplicating Starships and Ancient of Yore if your opponent doesn't have a huge board you want to clear. So you can take a slow turn with, like, Curse Campaign on Ancient of Yore, and that interacts really well with Conflagrate, because you can instantly kill it, and then your Yore train goes again. It's really hard to die when you're gaining 5 every turn, like twice even. If you do take a slow turn, and then your opponent builds a board, but you don't have dormant minions waking up that turn, you can stall for 1 turn with Bob, and then your dormant minions will wake up the turn after, and then you can trigger the Layover for maximum value on your Starship pieces and your Ancient of Yore. If all of that goes smoothly in the early game, then my personal favorite combo in the deck is having a huge Starship, ignoring Wheel of Death completely, and going Ceaseless Expanse to full clear the board, and then Exodar for damage and OTK the opponent from like 30 plus. The best way you can play Wheel of Death isn't usually on curve, even against most control-y decks, because most decks can still build a board, and then if you don't have the removal to back up the wheel, then you can just fall flat on your face quite often. So the best way to lock out the game after Wheel of Death is to make sure you already have cards like Exodar and Ceaseless Expanse in hand loaded up to stall for those 4 extra turns you need to end the game. Cards like Bob as well are very premium here, because that's just 1 extra turn that you've frozen your opponent out. The Exodar for armor, turn after Wheel, is usually the best thing you're looking for. Maybe comboed with a Curse Campaign on your Starship, so that it does wake up before the wheel ticks down. And then you can trigger the Spellblast again to clear a full board. And then it's very unlikely your opponent will be able to clear all your armor, even if you don't have the extra removal afterwards. If that's the case, then usually a Ceaseless Expanse or maybe another Layover or a Bob will be able to bridge the gap to the final turn without your opponent being able to kill you. The number one mistake I see people making with the deck is using Eternal Layover just on Ancient of Yore because it's woken up, and then they've used their layover, then the opponent makes a board, and then suddenly they don't have any removal yet. And the other one is just jamming Wheel on turn 8 against like the Starship Death Knight, or in the mirror even, because then that leaves you very susceptible to them just making board, plus the fatigue ticks. If you don't have the correct removal in hand after the wheel turn, then most decks will just get there over a couple turns against you. Wheel timing and layover, using it to actually clear boards, are the most important things that people get wrong, I think. Make sure to tune into the Spring Championship June 6th to 8th to see me play.